All right, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum. We're here for another fantastic episode of Construction Champions Podcast, where we start to have the conversations that lead to the disruptions and make us the champions that we are every day. Today, we have a great guest. Connor, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Ron. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk.
Awesome. Me and Connor have gotten to know each other over about the last year, and I'm super excited to hear his answer to the $1 million question. But before we dive into all of that, Connor, why don't you tell all the construction champions out there a little bit about yourself?
Right. Okay. Well, I am not necessarily a full-fledged construction professional expert myself. I can't pretend that I could go out there and hang up some drywall. So I don't want to. I know I look rugged, all of that, but that's not me. What I actually am, I'm a guy who I went to college, have 2 degrees, one in finance, one in insurance risk management. I was in the banking industry for about a decade after that. And then I got into a job where I did some operations management for an accounting firm, and I also did business advisor. And so in that, the very first time, my first meeting, I sat down with the husband and wife couple who run an electrician, outfit, office, whatever you want to say, crew. And I fell in love with it. I realized that's all I want to do for the rest of my life is help these folks who are great at what they do, fantastic electricians, but they are just missing business knowledge. They're missing some of that kind of ownership of it and understanding how that side of it works. And I knew that that was the gap I could come in and fill. So that's what I'm doing now. I took it all to my own business. That's what I'm doing. And I'm writing a book about that same topic as well.
I love it. And then congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
Being out there on your own. So let's get right into it. The $1 million question, what makes a construction champion?
I say that a construction champion, a true champion, is somebody who, kind of like I said, they're already good at what they do. That's most folks in the construction industry. But to become that champion, you have to be able to not just lead others, and be that example, but also in a situation where you can grow the right way, doing it how you want to do it, not how the old boss did it that you might not have liked so much, and doing it that way so you not only can you feed your family, but all your employees know that they got a paycheck, they got a good job, and that's going down the line, kind of like dominoes falling, to where you have just more than one family that is getting taken care of, helped out of whatever situation they would be in otherwise. Right? Those are the true champions, I think.
Yeah, it's, I love the analogy of those dominoes falling down, because it really is the impact that we have doesn't even necessarily impact us. There's other people that have something at stake, whether that's right. Employees or family members or children of employees. I love that you touched on how the old boss used to do that. We talked about it on here numerous times, right. On Construction Champions. Is a lot of the guys that are running companies are guys that left somewhere because they felt they could do it better, or they were just tired of working for the boss or working for the man. What do you see when you're out there helping these guys get started?
So I would say that is probably the most common thing is they decide, some of them say there's money out there to be made, and absolutely, that is completely true. But the real motivating factor underneath the money is the previous boss didn't run it right. They didn't feel valued. They saw other people not being valued. They might have been valued as one of the higher ups, the high performers, but it didn't feel. I've talked to several people this week who have all said, I want my business, my employees, I want it to be a family that have that kind of a feel to it. So that is what I hear over and over, that a lot of them want to create a better culture than what they came from.
Yeah. So culture, family is what I'm hearing. Now you're dealing with a lot of the guys that are in this transition. So how do we build a business where people don't do that transition. Because like when we talk about the families and keeping people around, and we want to grow and scale and do it in a place where it is a family, but you don't want that family to leave. What is the stuff you work on with them so you end up building a company that people want to be at?
Right. So I think, and this is my belief, this is my philosophy, and what I tell my clients as well, is that first and foremost, the very first thing, before you worry about the income, before you worry about anything else, you have to have your mindset right. Because being a business owner is completely night and day different from just clocking in, clocking out. I mean, it's like we've already talked. You're responsible for not just your life, not just your family's life, but also any employees that you're bringing along. Even if you have 1099 folks, some subcontractors, if they're used to getting consistent jobs from you, then you just disappear, you're going to have a big effect on people. So that is the very first thing, is understand why you're in it, what the difference is, and how you need to change and focus, on your mindset. And then from there, yeah, there's indicators like have cash reserves, have jobs built up, all those kind of other things that, get down the line in the nitty gritty, get your LLC, all that kind of fun stuff. But I always think that first and foremost is getting your mindset right.
Yeah, you have to have that mindset right to be able to go out there and build anything or do anything. It is a big transition when you go from employee to business owner. Do you find that when you're working with those guys that are in the process of doing that, like, are they really looking in the mirror at exactly can they be the difference that they're looking to have? I mean, I don't if that question makes sense to you there or not. I'm not sure if I
Well,
worded that right or not, but hey, I'm from
I
the
got
industry.
you.
It's just going to come
No,
out how it is.
I know, I got you. I completely understand what you're saying. I want to say that the majority of the people who make the leap and start their own business, they at least believe that they can, at least superficially. A lot of them I see and I talk to, I think the overall confidence of making it work, making the business successful, all that kind of stuff is there. But then I talked to a guy where he's like, I know the top line, everything's going to succeed. I'm good at this. But he gets caught up in all of the little decisions along the way, whether it's ordering from a certain supplier, taking a certain job. Should I actually look at hiring versus 1099, blah, 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 down the line, because there's a lot of stuff and they don't have that confidence there in themselves, that when they look at themselves in the mirror, they're like, top line, I can do it, but I'm just so, I don't know if I want to say scared, but concerned maybe about all the little stuff that goes into a business, and they're just not sure what could sink their ship.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, looking at it from being in a perspective where I've went out, I've done that. I think scared is something that comes into play because when you're not just taking your livelihood, you're creating a family. Your other people's livelihoods are going to be there because of you. It can create a lot of fear. And you can start to think about stuff from the wrong perspective. So when you talk about having that mindset right, that is a very critical aspect to getting out there. But to kind of circle back to what we were talking about a little bit ago, is that keeping people around piece. Because if you're leaving somewhere, you're leaving for a reason. How do you not ever become that reason for somebody else down the road? How do you start to create that environment that people want to stick around, people want to stay?
Right. There's a few things, and I think there's a few things that are just flat wrong what these guys are thinking. Because I talked to a few people, and they say everyone's going to be respected, highly paid, and they're even going to get a cut of any of the work they bring in. That's good. That's good. But if you have someone who is truly, truly high level, high performer, they're going to want to keep everything that they bring in, not just a percentage. So it's not just the money. I know the money is important somewhat, but anytime you're the boss and you have employees under you, there are some that are going to want to leave and do it for themselves. And so some of that is going to have to be understanding that, fostering, like we're saying, a culture to where if we want to do what's best for you, And if that means that you're an employee of mine, highly respected, you know, you are a part of my family. Or if that means you as a family member, you need to go do your own thing, I want to set you up to do that. I want to be the best I can to do that, because that person's going to go and he's going to have everything good to say about you because you helped him get it going, right? Instead of, I hate that guy. He was just a piece of crap, you know, and starting it from just a place of hate instead of, you know, someone who can really respect you and probably will end up giving you jobs back and forth, whatever, you know, certain situations like that, you know?
Yeah, what you're saying is like it's so accurate. Like we have to put our best foot forward in people. We have to, I say all the time is as long as we're taking action without malice in our heart, like no bad could come from that. So we can't be like so secretive. We can't be all held back because I think personally that creates a culture where people want to leave. They don't want to be around that. They want to be in an open, thriving. They want to see success. They want to see that leader leading success, like allowing it to happen. And whatever that success looks like for somebody, because it's always going to be different, how people interpret success. That is what that leader is supposed to do and go out there. So I love what you're talking about with that. And so you work with guys that are really early in making that transition. What are some of the most critical things that people need to get in place when they're thinking about that transition?
Right. So a lot of times the critical stuff, I think a lot of people worry more than they should, even on some of your back end stuff, your LLC, all that kind of paperwork stuff. Yes, it is absolutely important. You need to do that, but don't let it stop you from getting started. Right. And so there's some of that, you know, of course, the licenses, whatever you might need for your specific industry and service, that kind of thing. There's some of those stuff, you know, just the clear cut, just get those taken care of. But the number one thing whenever you start a business that you have to do, it's one of my favorite, it's my old boss's saying, it is go out, kill it, drag it home. That's your number one thing when you start. It is not time to worry about this potential thing over here, or should I worry about a logo? I think I need to update my logo and get some t-shirts and stuff like that. No, go out there, get jobs. If that means knocking on doors, if that means talking to everybody you know, Jim, Bob, Brett, whoever it might be that you worked with at your old company 8 years ago, go out and find it. Because the very first thing you need to do is build up not only work, but also loyal customers. You do those two things right out of the gate, and then we can worry about everything else, like, you know, potentially hiring people, building up cash reserves. That way, whenever you're not able to find somebody over and over again, you have some time. You're not just going right back out on the street or back to the old job. Right. So go out and kill it, drag it home is the first step, always.
Yeah, securing work. And, you brought up an interesting point there about, when it gets slow, just going back to what you were doing before. Because, especially in the climate today, you can practically write what you want to go do that kind of stuff. And I think there is a lot of temptation to go back and revert from being that business owner and, it kind of the strugglers. It's one of the reasons why doing this podcast is so important, because I believe we are champions for the construction industry, and opening up these lines of communications and having these conversations is so important, because it helps guys be better at the bottom line, the business aspect, the people aspect, or if there's just one or two kind of things that you can tweak that cleans everything up, or it just makes it to where, that makes sense, and makes it a lot easier because you're hearing from guys from within the industry. Like we're not just guys that are just, business Wall Street guys that are here. This is how you run a business. No, we're talking about how you run a construction business.
Exactly.
And going out and securing work is very important. I think a lot of guys can get hung up on like having all of this stuff in play, but it's just like any business is like you have to prove a market and
Right.
prove an ability to be able to go out there and dominate that market.
Yeah. It's so easy to do all that other stuff. Like I said earlier, the logo and all of that kind of stuff, getting your LinkedIn just right, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. I worked hard today. But then the next day, what did you really do? How did you move your business forward? Yeah, sure, that's done, but is that really moving you forward here and now? That's totally something that you could do in 3 months whenever, you had a big snowstorm or something,
Hmm.
right? And you can't, there's no work to do because everybody's, snowed in for a day. You could do that then. So right now, go out, secure work, just like you said.
Yeah, sale, whenever you're starting anything out, sales is always king. Like that's what
Yep.
matters. It's not necessarily marketing, it's not your wording, it's like getting stuff sold. So you're proving that you can go do that. And then, every time you have a sale, it'll build on your confidence. And plus, you go out and do them. Like you said, you create loyal customers who are then going to refer you. It just consistently gets easier the more customers that you go out and help. So by making that priority number one, I can see how that you can go out there and have a lot better success creating your own business.
Yeah. That's exactly right. You do that first, and then you are afforded not just the time, but the cash and work, scheduled out to where you have a little bit of wiggle room, might be the right way to say it. So that way you're not just like, if I don't work this week, it's over. You want to get to the point where you are like, if I don't work for 3 straight months, if I do 0 jobs, then yeah, it's done. But that's where you got to get to. That's got to be the goal. Obviously, some people say 6 months and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is all great. But I think first and foremost, especially for a newer business, get to 3 months of expenses completely covered, your salary, if you have employees, their salary and taxes and all that kind of super fun stuff. Have all of that set aside so that way that if it goes downhill for a little bit, you can handle the storm.
So you're talking about building up that safety net,
Yep,
correct?
that safety net is so important, especially for a new business, and it's important for any business, especially in the construction industry, because weather just plays such a big effect in almost all aspects of the industry. Yeah, sure, there are some inside only jobs, but even then, you got to get to and from the site and some stuff like that. So yeah, it affects it. It's huge having that safety net.
Yeah, because there's a lot of different variables
Yep.
from homeowners to subs to the actual work to supply chain. There's a lot of different things that you have to bring into account as a business owner. So having that safety net is definitely an important thing that we have to look at being able to have.
Yep, exactly.
So we've covered get out there and get jobs, create
Yep.
a safety net. What are a couple what's something else that guys should be looking at as they go out there and start creating that business for themselves?
I would say there's a couple parts of it. One is what's your marketing strategy going to be? Who is it? Really, what does your customer look like? Not just, hey, I do all things construction. Well, that's good. That fantastic. Good for you. Whenever you get bigger, we can talk about that kind of stuff. But for now, you need to find an ideal client, just a niche, because I don't know how many times I've heard it. The riches are in the niches, whatever,
Hmm.
however you want to pronounce that word. So you find your thing, you be the best at that and market it to death. And so everybody understands, oh yeah, Bob, yeah, he does the best siding I have ever seen for residential houses. Okay, that's who do you think they're going to turn to? The company that does everything or the guy who's the best siding installer they've ever seen? Probably going to be that one. And then the other really important thing I believe is getting yourself a team of people outside of, not just your employees, not just your wife as the bookkeeper, but getting people experts in stuff like accounting, insurance. I would, of course, selfishly say a business coach, but the other side of that is a mentor works, something like that. Someone above you that's been successful, you respect. That can work really well too, not just a business coach. But it's that kind of person that's got more of the business knowledge on it, just so that way you have someone to bounce things off of. Same thing with the insurance, same thing with the accounting. Having that. Of course, if you could get a marketer, when you're at that time, someone who's excellent at the social media posting and videos and things like that, yeah, absolutely. That's one of, that's probably in your first 5, 6 experts to go out and find, but it's not your first.
So I love the niche in talking about that, because it is so important to understand not only what you do, where you do it, and being that expert, so people know that. That is, I think it's something that the guys that are doing that and doing that at a high level, I see having tons and tons of success. Yep. And when you talk about building that team, that is definitely what has to happen. You want to be in a room with the people wherever you're going. You don't want to be in the room with the guys where you're coming from. You want to make sure you're surrounding yourself with growth-minded individuals that will continue to help you develop. I love it. Yeah. Great information today. Great. Thank you. Great steps on how we can go from a W-2 employee to a business owner, all here within 25 minutes. I think that's pretty powerful. I think that's stuff that people can take out there. You can start rocking and rolling. And then as well as for the business owners out there, like, this is stuff that can be implemented today. So Connor, you want to tell everybody where they can find you or how they can follow you?
Yeah, of course. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. Connor Babcock is my name. My company is Ground Level Goals. Try to make it fairly easy because you're starting at the ground. You got goals. And then really, I just want to say, that I want to help you go from that W-2 to that successful business owner. It's just follow me on all that stuff. I post all the stinking time, as Ron can attest. I probably annoy him a little bit, but that is what I do. And I've created a full program for it. I'm writing a book about it that's opening up for pre-order soon. At the time of recording, it'll probably, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be close to coming out to, full release by the time this podcast comes out. And so, yeah, check it out.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for being on the episode today.
Thank you very much.
All right, construction champions. We just had some great information on how to start running your business. Now, whether you're at day 0 or day 100 or your 10th year, there's a lot of practical knowledge that we talked about today to help you get over the hurdles. As in, like, what kind of culture are you building? Are you a leader that is leading the way that people want to be successful with? Do you look in the mirror and understand exactly what your company is and the vision for that? These are great things. What is your niche? I know guys that have been in the industry for 10 years that on the 11th year, they found their niche and decided we're going all in on this because this is what we do really, really good. Finding that stuff out sooner than later is very, very important because it's a lot of the stuff that's not your niche that'll end up costing you money. Chances are that's the non-profitable part of your business. So go out there, figure out what these things are. Don't be afraid to ask yourself the questions. It's not as hard as people make it out to be. Get around the right people, get in the right rooms, and go be the champion you were meant to be. So, construction champions, until next time, go be that champion.